Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead, where I'm quite unhappy. It's true, I am very unhappy about the master mix for cake that is in the Alaska materials that we have. Now, I can tell you that this is one time where you do not have to take my word for it. In fact, I hope you don't, because there's a couple of caveats here. Number one, I am not a great cake baker. I do fine with boxed cakes. Those are no fail for me. And then I also do fine if I'm doing bundt cakes or pound cakes, things like that. I do just fine if it's in a bundt pan. But when I do layers or flat cakes, like in a 9x13 pan or a 9x9, then I always fail. I remember watching the Great English Bake Off, or whatever it's called, with Paul Hollywood, and I was so excited watching some of those cake recipes, and I was sure I was going to fix whatever it is that's wrong with me, why I can't bake cakes. Every single time I tried, even Paul Hollywood's recipes, they flopped. And they didn't flop just in a small way. They all flopped in a big way. And the same thing happened to me on this. And I was really hoping that with this master mix that I wouldn't continue to have the very same problem that I have always had. But sadly, here are the things that, well, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the clips of the 3 recipes that I made. And these are not video clips. These are just stills. And you can see in every single one of them, if you look closely, they all have a crater, all 3 of them. And I'm going to do a little voiceover as we go through them. I'll tell you what the cake is. But also know that these pictures were taken and the voiceovers were done before I had tasted the cakes. So after the video, after you see these 3 clips, then we'll be back and we'll talk a little bit more about things that I found a little disappointing. This is the yellow cake, and you can see that crater right smack in the middle. But this is it with the frosting, and it covered the crater. This is the orange cake. It's hard to see the crater, but it is the lighter spot in the middle part. This is the gingerbread part, and it's cratered again. There they were. Some craters were bigger and deeper than other craters. So a couple of things that I did not like at all. First of all was the cakes didn't rise more than an inch. The cakes were just very shallow cakes, about that tall. And I like a cake to be a good 2 inches, 1.5 inches to 2 inches, so that you're really thinking that you're putting your fork down into and getting a nice tall cake. And it wasn't even close. And the 9x9 pan or the 8x8 pan, I followed the recipes according to what they wanted us to do in terms of size of the pan. And boy, they just were thin, especially where those craters were. It was only about this thick. So the other thing was the texture of the cake. I don't know what happened. I used some new baking powder that I brought in from the garage that had been in our food storage for a couple of years, but I tested it. I don't ever bring a baking powder in without testing it to be sure, and it just bubbled up in that warm water just fine. It was very, very active, so I know that it was not the baking powder, and I have made biscuits with it since that time, and they rose just absolutely fine. I'm attributing maybe the cake texture was not fine. You know how cakes are just have the little tiny bubbles where the baking powder had leavened the dough? Well, this cake mixture had large bubbles, and it made the texture very coarse and very heavy. And actually, I felt they were all 3 quite nasty. And I am sorry to say that. And it might be me. So here's what I'm going to suggest. We are a community. We are a learning community. My voice in this case may not be the most important voice, because I know that some of you have already used the master cake mix that is in the Alaska materials. And perhaps you use shortening instead of oil, and maybe that was all it was, I don't know. But would any of you who have used that master mix, please come forward and put your comments below so the rest of us can learn from what you did, if you had a success or if you had a failure. Now, I use the word failure, and I used to do this also in my university classes. And people today just shy away. Oh, you didn't fail, you didn't fail. Think of all the good that came from it. A fail is a fail is a fail. I do not think that a fail is necessarily a bad thing. It is a learning experience. And what I learned was, I don't like this recipe at all, but I am going to go forward, and there is a master mix for cake in this Utah State booklet material. And it is quite different, actually. It calls for shortening, and it calls for a unique way of putting the mix together. I am not done with cake master mixes. I'm going to try the one in here to see how it is, and we'll come back in a few weeks and I will give you the results of that one as well. But meanwhile, the gingerbread cake that I made, I was really interested in the comparison of the one in the Elastabook to the one from the gingerbread mix that we made from the Utah booklet. And I've used that gingerbread master mix a couple of times, one time on camera in our last video. And oh my gosh, the recipe there is far superior to the one that I made using the master mix from the Alaska material. So come to our rescue. If you have had a really good experience, share with us what you used in terms of when it said water or milk or shortening or oil or those kinds of things. Tell which choices you used in the master mix and in making the cakes themselves. If you had a success especially. If you had a failure, please tell us about it and what you learned from it, and we can all be better off as a result. Now, I'm certainly not giving up on the master mixes in the Alaska book at all. There are many more things I want to try. We're going to do the pudding in a while. There are lots of spice mixes that we're going to try. There are some salad dressing mixes that we're going to try, all in future videos coming forward this year. So we're not done with the Alaska book at all. And, you know, it's okay for one to be not as good as some of the rest of them. The others that we've done so far, I really, really like. And I'm using them, and they're now they are a regular part of what we have in our pantry. So that's my sad tale about my experience with the cake master mix. So I will look forward to reading your comments, and then we will give it another go using the Utah information instead. So thank you for being a part of our video today and for your constant support. In success or failure, we are together. So we will see you again very soon for more videos.